I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual, the inspiration that made ladies sing the blues. I'm the spark that makes your idea bright. The same spark that lights the dark so that you can know your left from your right. I am the ballad in your box, the bullet in the gun, the inner glow that let you know to call your brother son. The story that just begun, the promise of what's to come. And I'ma remain a soldier till the war is won. Chop, chop, chop. You gon' flip. Chop, chop, chop. You gon' flip. Chop, chop, chop. You gon' flip. Chop, chop, chop.
Welcome to the Immaculate Negro, episode 6. So as you can see in this episode, we're going to be talking about the LGBTQ community. And the thing about this community is I don't have a lot of inside perspective or knowledge about it other than what, I've learned throughout society and throughout my lifetime. I'm not part of this community. I don't really have any close friends who are part of this community, so I've never really had the opportunity to talk to somebody in this community about their own experiences in it. So unfortunately, I've not been enlightened enough to have that conversation. And it's really unfortunate. I wish I someday get the opportunity to, but for now I can only speak from the outside looking in. I can only speak from the perspective of a Black African man growing up, trying to really understand what this whole situation is about, what this whole community is about. So once again, to just dive right into it, first and foremost, if you're from the African American community or from the Black community, the one thing you know from the onset as it relates to homosexuality is that it's quote unquote it's a sin, right? It's wrong, it's taboo against God, it's this and it's that. And the majority of us, unless you're for some interesting reason the exception, the majority of us in the Black community were raised in the church. We were raised to believe certain things are wrong, certain things are right, for no other reason that you have to be holier than thou, if that makes sense. You have to be free of sin and wrongdoing, and homosexuality was one of those things that was seen as a wrongdoing, as a sin, as a plight on humanity. And so for the early parts of your life, that's really what you can't help but believe. And unfortunately, a lot of us, it's so ingrained in us that we live our whole lives believing this and almost shunning people who don't conform to this standard of holiness, to this standard of religious excellence. It almost becomes synonymous with good and bad and right and wrong as we start to grow out of our religious backgrounds, but we still can't let go of this essence that homosexuality has, this essence that it is taboo, that it is wrong, and we can't support it or allow it or like it, and there's no reason for us to accept it. Luckily for me, though, as it relates to my experience, my parents were never hateful people. Like, they're not really like that. So when it came to homosexuality, they just knew how they felt about it, and I think that's mainly due to the religious background they have, like growing up in Africa, where it's just some places it's still illegal, some places you can get killed for it, like some places it's really to live that life openly is to risk your life, is to risk your family and friends, is to risk everything. So that's the culture they come from, where it's just no means no. Don't even think about that. And if you are thinking about that, you better go pray, and you better curb your thoughts, and you better think again. So that was really their perspective on it. But like I said, they didn't raise me, my brothers, with hate or animosity or to just dislike somebody for no reason. So I believe because they were always raising us with such good values, they never really imposed such negativity on us in the terms of this is what they think about something, and however negative it may be, they would never force that negative opinion to be our opinion. So obviously they taught us to, treat everybody equally, love everybody the same, all those good things. But I always knew how my parents felt about it. Like, at the bottom line, My father more so than my mother. Mother is always so loving and understanding, so they always try to see, the shoe on the other foot. They always try to really understand it from the other person's perspective, right? So mothers are always amazing with that, regardless of how they feel. They can always put their emotions to the side and see things for the truth of it, or the honest to goodness nature of it. So that's how my mother is. But my father, like most African men, it's just he rejected the whole idea of homosexuality in its totality. Like, it really disgusted him. And I'm sure a lot of people understand this familiar feeling from their parents. Like, it's just so wrong that they're just appalled at the thought of it. And I don't know, maybe it's a generational thing, and we're finally starting to get over that or bridge that gap. And of course it's going to be my generation to do it, so shout out to us. But yeah, a lot of our parents were really homophobic. They that's just really what it is. It's just being homophobic. So a lot of us are raised in a very homophobic environment, and anytime anything is related to homosexuality would spring up, it would get nipped in the bud right away. So at this point in my life, when I was a youth, I didn't really much care for people being gay or straight. Like, I literally did not care. So I don't know, maybe once again that's just my upbringing. Like, I wasn't really raised to care. Like, I know everybody was raised differently, so even now amongst my peers we have different feelings about this. Like, some people still care and some people don't care. So you can only blame your upbringing for so long. You can only say these thoughts you think are due to your parents thinking what they thought, right? After a certain amount of time, after you've lived enough of life, you have to attribute everything you are and your thoughts, you have to attribute that to yourself. It's nobody's responsibility for your own, but your own. But luckily, throughout life, I guess, I've just always kind of had that mentality. And so I honestly feel as though I'm really fortunate to never have, I guess, disliked anybody or taken offense to anybody just living their life and living their truth and just being them unapologetically. And when I became more conscious of it, and I guess more conscious of myself and everything around me and the whole movement and the whole equality for those in the LGBT communities, when I began to, I guess, become more involved mentally, if that makes sense, I began to really, I guess, take it more seriously in my conscious and unconscious actions. I began to challenge my parents on it once I had the knowledge to do so, because I always thought if my parents always have some backward way of thinking, or they have some olden times way of thinking, some old ass adult mentality, expired ass way of thinking, I always thought if they had that and I let them continue to have that while I know better, then I am just as responsible, because these are my parents. Like, they represent me as much as I represent them. So I was never scared of engaging in dialogue with them to change their mind. I thought if there's anybody I can affect change on, I'd have to start with my own parents. You'd have to convince them, help them see that the way you think about this, I understand you've always thought about this way, but you need to upgrade your way of thinking. You need to know that way is not the way it's done anymore. You need to know that certain things that as a society as a whole we thought were not okay, they have to be okay now. And that is really the bottom line, and you really have to come around and see that. So fast forward to present day, obviously after years of this discourse with my parents, mom's is great. You know how it is, all moms are great, so understanding, she fully gets it. Funny enough, dad is great too. He fully gets it and he fully understands, and Once again, they may not like it. You don't have to like everybody else's lifestyle or way of thinking. You just have to appreciate and respect it for what it is, and that is their right to live however they want to live, as long as they're not harming anybody else. And that's really all it is. And so, to focus this back up, to round it back up, I always wondered how we, being the Black community, being the people whose history is so unfortunately intertwined with oppression and the struggle and the fight for space, the fight for belonging, the fight for equality in existence, as a people who understand that so very well, how dare we now antagonize somebody else? How dare we now take the shape of our oppressors and deny these people their right for equality, deny these people their right for space, deny these people their right to belong, just because we don't believe in their existence? How dare we? In all honesty, it's one of the most appalling traits of the Black community in my eyes, how we are almost taking away and trying to limit the freedom of others, while in the same breath wanting complete freedom for ourselves. So just remember that equality is not something that's exclusive to the Black community. It belongs to everybody. Thank you. God bless.